I want to welcome you to the webinar tonight. My name is Mark Fincher, and I am happy to be here with you to be able to present to you something that has really helped me a lot to become better in my life. And tonight's topic is called Focus, the Art of Increasing Capacity. So when we talk about capacity, what we're talking about is what we can put into our lives, what we can fit in. So first of all, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for the fact that you're willing to take your time to join us. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to be able to do this with Zoom because it allows me to spread my message even further than just to people who live right next to me. So this is really great for me to be able to share with you this opportunity to learn a little bit. So I want to give you an idea of what it's like to not have capacity. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to share a little bit about where I was at. Because a year ago, I was at a place where I could barely get myself out of bed in the morning to get dressed and do basically nothing. I really didn't feel like I could accomplish anything. I felt no energy. I had no ability to even think of accomplishing much of anything in a day. I just look at the day and just go, I can't get anything done. That was my mindset. So when I started to make changes in my life and I started to look for something new, suddenly things started happening. I had new opportunities come to me that allowed me to be able to say, oh, there's more. I can actually accomplish more. But beyond that, when those opportunities started coming to me, I grasped some of them. Okay? I'm not going to say I took every opportunity I had available to me, but I did take opportunities. And as I took those opportunities, I learned new things. And one of the key things that I learned is something I'm going to be presenting to you tonight, and it's about focus. And when I'm talking about focus, I'm not talking about what a camera does. I'm talking about what our mind does. So it might surprise you, but it's actually easy to focus. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. But it's easy to focus because when we focus, we find the ability starts to expand quickly. Any ability we're trying to get, when we focus on it, it starts to expand quickly. So I want you to understand that in focusing, you gain more than what you're expending. It seems at times that when we focus really hard, we expend a lot, and we do. But the key thing is that we really, in the long term, we gain much more than what we're putting into that focus at the moment. Okay, so by the end of this, I'm hoping that you feel like you can have a little bit more room in your life. And when I'm talking about room, I'm talking about space to feel like you can pull something in. If you start pulling things into your life, you're going to find that there is more to what you can accomplish. So a couple of things. I'm going to ask you to participate tonight. So I hope that you're ready to be a little bit participatory in what we're doing. Because when you actually participate, you actually can focus better. Okay? Also, you might end up smiling or giggling a little bit, and that's okay too. I do that all the time now. And I actually like it because I feel better when I smile and when I giggle. It's a lot better to be that way in life. And you might actually get a different thought of what capacity actually means. Because capacity is not something that we measure in the way that you would scientifically. Okay, capacity is something that you actually feel. And it comes from your mind and from your heart. Capacity is something much bigger than we can comprehend. All right, so to develop an attitude of focus, we're going to work on that. You're going to find the ability to accomplish more because accomplishment comes from that focus. And you're going to see more opportunities around you. Now, it seems strange, but as you focus, you think that you'd lose the view of things around you. But in fact, by focusing in on things, you actually begin to see more of what's around you. Okay, and beyond that, I hope, and I know that this can work for you because it's worked for me, more money can flow to you as you focus. Okay? You can actually get more accomplished in the same amount of time that you would get a whole lot less done. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. And you're also going to have time to prioritize things in your life much more. And when you start to prioritize and you start finding time for things you really love in life, life gets a whole lot better. So think about it that way. All right, a couple more things. Would you like to have those kind of results? Would you really like to have results that bring to you what you really want in life? I think you do, but sometimes we get a little bit afraid of saying, well, if it requires something of me, I'm not sure I want to put the effort in. But I hope you do. So do I have your permission to tell you a little bit about how my journey came to be? Okay, thanks. I want you to know that for myself, it's been a journey that has not been easy, but has been very, very fulfilling. You see, when I had no energy, I was miserable. My family was miserable. Everybody around me, when I was there, was miserable. I spread that to everyone. But as I started changing myself and focusing on changing myself and changing things in my life, my attitude started changing. And that helped people to understand that there was more to life. So, a couple of things I want to go through. I want to have some rules. So I want you to respect one another. I want you to respect me because I'm going to respect you as well. I want you to be present, which means I want you to be attentive to what I'm talking about. And the reason for that is you are spending time to be here. And if you're not being attentive, why are you spending the time? So be present for yourself and for my sake, because I'm present for you. Okay? And then give your 100%. It's easy to give 100% when you think about what you can accomplish. Okay? If you think about what you can accomplish, it motivates you to do more. If you think about what you haven't accomplished and you look to the past, that's not motivational. But when you look to what you can accomplish, it motivates you. And it helps you to start gaining focus. So, I have to tell you this story that happened to me. You see, when I was younger, my mom would have me drive up to the bus stop when I was about 10 or 11. And that wasn't too hard. It was an automatic station wagon. And we were on a private road. There weren't really any cars around. It was no big deal. But I remember the first time my mom pulled to the side of the road after I got my learner's permit. And she said, okay, it's your turn to drive. But it wasn't our automatic station wagon anymore. It was a stick shift. And I felt very uncertain about learning to drive a stick shift. I had watched my parents and my brother drive it for years, but I didn't have confidence in my ability to actually use the stick. Okay? But what I found was it wasn't the stick shift itself that was the issue. I could move that around easily. What was at issue was using the clutch with my left foot. And it took me, I don't know how many times, to actually get the car moving and keep it moving. I killed that engine at least 4 or 5 times, probably more. I almost burnt out the clutch on the car trying to figure out how to let it out so that I could actually start moving. It was nerve-wracking, but I became very, very focused because I Didn't know how to do it. But I wanted to be able to do it. It was a little embarrassing. Luckily, it was my mom with me, not my brother or not my dad, because my mom was patient. But it was still somewhat embarrassing. And it was like, come on, somebody might pass me that knows me, and they're going to look at me and just laugh because I can't get the car moving. By the time I finally figured out how to move that clutch so that I could get the car moving without killing it, wow, I felt pretty good. Then I had to shift into second gear. And that actually came kind of easily. Third gear wasn't bad at all. Fourth gear was pretty good. And driving it, well, that wasn't even a consideration. I knew how to steer because I'd done it as a 10-year-old. But being able to focus on what that clutch was doing, wow, that took a lot of effort. And downshifting, that was even a little bit more difficult than shifting up, but I figured it out. And then stopping wasn't bad because I figured out, okay, I've watched it before. You just put the clutch in, and you coast and brake, and you're done. But as I continued to drive and I continued to learn how to speed up using the clutch, I found something very important. The more I focused on it, the better I became at it. And after a while, using that clutch became second nature to me. I didn't have to think about it anymore because it had become part of my programming. I just knew how to do it. And beyond that, I knew how to do it, but I also knew how to get out of problems. I knew how to downshift quickly. I knew how to actually start the car from a dead stop going uphill from third gear, because occasionally I'd get to the end of our road, getting onto the main highway, and as I'd put it into first gear, I'd miss and I'd end up in third gear. Seems a little strange. I don't ever remember my mom doing it. Maybe she did. She probably killed the engine in the process. But I remember the first time, and this highway had a lot of logging trucks that would come by at 55 to 60 miles an hour. They weren't stopping for me if I died in the middle of the road. And I remember the first time it happened, I started to let out the clutch, and I could tell I was in the wrong gear. And I knew that this had the potential to kill the engine, and I'd be stuck partway in the road. And so I focused heavily on what I was doing with that clutch. And I used that clutch to perfection and got the car moving, and then was able to shift into second gear and then back into third and into fourth. And it was like I had just been going into first gear to begin with. And it was funny because I don't know if this was just something that my brain was telling me. It didn't matter whether I was in first or third, but I actually several times put it into third at that point on the road. And I remember one time doing that in front of my dad's store, and my dad got into the car with me, and we started to take off. And again, it was an uphill, and I was trying to get moving, and he noticed that it was in third because I was using the clutch differently. And he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And then when I put it into second gear and just kept going, because he had never had the opportunity to be with me when I'd done it other times, he looked at me and he said, "How did you do that?" Because he knew he couldn't have gotten the car moving from third gear. But I was so practiced at it, I was so focused on how to use that clutch that I could do it consistently. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to me when we're talking about being able to accomplish more in life? Okay, when we focus in life, when we actually focus on something we're trying to do, say we've got some kind of a mind technique we're trying to use to change the way we're thinking. When we focus on that, we actually start to learn how to use it better. And if you focus really, really well, you can master that technique, just as I mastered being able to use a clutch on a car. And I didn't just use the clutch on a car, I used it on trucks and other equipment. Because once I learned the concept of how a clutch worked, I was able to expand my experience to be able to use it in other realms. So the same way, when we start working on mind techniques to better ourselves, say I want to change a story in my head that's preventing me from moving forward, the more I focus on the new story I'm giving myself, the better I become at actually accomplishing getting that story into my head, so that when the opportunity comes up, I'm actually able to focus on it and accomplish it. And the next time it comes up, it becomes easier again. Now, we can get lax with some of these things because we think we know how to do it all. And we do this all the time in our lives. If you start thinking about it, there are things that you never even give a thought to that used to be difficult for you to do. And they used to take you a lot of time. How long does it take you to tie your shoes? Probably no time at all. But when you first started, it probably took minutes. Minutes to tie your shoe, but now it takes mere seconds. And sometimes you can do another task while doing it. You can be talking to somebody about something. You can be thinking about some deep concept, and you just tie it because you know how to do it. So when we start working these techniques in our minds to either change our mind or change our heart, the more we do it, the better we become at it. But the more we focus on it, even when it becomes easy to do, if we still focus ourselves to be able to concentrate on what we're doing, we master it even further. So when I talk about increasing capacity, consider what I just said. Okay, I gave an example of shoelaces. It probably took you minutes as a child to tie your shoelaces, and yet now you can do it in mere seconds without much thought. You've gained time. Okay, shoelace tying doesn't take you minutes anymore. You gain time by mastering that skill. And so in anything that we try to master, we gain efficiency. Okay, perhaps we don't necessarily gain time, but perhaps we gain the ability to see next steps better. And if we can see those next steps, we start to move faster. Okay? The task itself may not be done any faster, but we start to move faster because we can see next steps. We can see next steps that will move us in the direction we want to go, rather than just working the task at hand and then stopping and pausing and saying, what next? We start to master that and we know what's next. We can see what's coming. Just like if you're driving down a road that you've driven many, many times, you know when you need to slow down or you know when you're going to need to speed up because you've been down that path before. And you know how to anticipate problems that might come up as well, so that you can quickly react to them if they do come up. So when you start working these techniques in a consistent way, it starts to better you, and that proficiency is awesome for doing that. So the technique I want to describe today is one that I call an AM/PM routine, meaning you do something in the morning. You pick specific tasks to do in the morning. So I have an example of one of those charts. So here's my AM/PM routine chart. And on that chart, I just list out my tasks and I check off if I did them in the AM. And I will also put down tasks that I want to accomplish in the PM. Okay, so things I do in the morning, things I do in the afternoon and evening. And it's simple to do this, but in doing it, what really becomes important is the consistency of doing it and focusing on those specific techniques. Because I have a routine that I follow, it forces me to focus on it. Because if I don't think about doing it, I may forget to do it. By having a checklist, I know this is something I want to accomplish. It causes focus. And the more I focus on the technique itself, because I've remembered to do it, the more I master that technique. So do the techniques in the morning and the afternoon need to be the same? No, they don't. They can be different. I do different things in the morning than I do in the evening. Some of them I prefer to do both in the morning and evening. But it doesn't mean they all have to be the same, because some things don't need the same level of mastery. And perhaps you don't have time to do everything you want to do, both morning and evening. That's okay. So when you start doing this, and you do it consistently like I've been doing, some of those things become mastered. And some of those things have come off of my AM, PM routine, because I am no longer needing the thing to jog my memory. It's just automatic for me. I just do it every day because I know I want to be doing it. It's that ingrained in me at this point. But I started off by having it on a checklist. But because I consistently do it and I don't have to think about doing it, it allows me to add new things to my routine because I now have space to be able to accomplish them. That's a big thing because I've now created the ability to do more because I've mastered something. So I want to practice at this point something else. I want to do something, and I want you to do it with me. So what I want you to do is take one hand and snap your finger. Okay, if you're able to do that, now do it with the other hand. Notice I'm not as proficient with my left hand. Now watch this. I'm going to wet my finger a little bit, and it actually becomes louder because I've learned through a lot of experience that if I loosen up the friction at that point at the tip of my finger, I can do it better. And I get a little bit better with my left hand. Okay, now try adding something different to it. Now when you do that, are you as proficient? Or when you start to develop patterns in what you're doing, it requires a little bit more thought. Now, when I was in high school, I had a habit of snapping my fingers and doing this. Now, I was so proficient at it that I didn't even think about it. I would just walk around talking to people, and I'd be snapping and just doing this over and over and over. And I was so good at it that it really annoyed other people. But it was something that I had ingrained really well. Now, I haven't done that for years, so I'm not very good at it anymore. But I was super proficient in it. I didn't even have to think about what I was doing. And I came up with all kinds of fun patterns and noises. I could switch from hand to hand. Okay. So when you recognize that maybe you're not really proficient at snapping your fingers, you know if you practiced it, you can be. Okay. If you practice playing the harmonica, or the violin, or the guitar, or the piano, if you work at it and you really focus, you can actually become proficient at it. But it takes focus up front and effort. So the problem that we see in life that comes from not having focus is that, well, lots of people start businesses and then give up. People on weight reduction programs lose some weight and then find it again. And then you also have parents who they start a new family habit. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I know I have. Start a new family habit and you just totally get derailed almost immediately because you haven't focused enough to say, I'm going to do this every day or every week, however you're trying to do it. So if you don't have the focus on it, it quickly gets lost. And then often what happens, you start blaming. You start saying, oh, that didn't work because. And you find some reason to blame, whether it was the thing you were doing, or if it was your family, or your spouse, maybe it was a mouse. Who knows what you're going to blame? But you're going to find something to blame more than likely and say, I don't do that because of. Other than recognizing, I didn't focus enough to make it a real habit. And so it became uncomfortable for me to think about because I wasn't doing it. It's that accountability level. So what happens if you don't change what's going on with that behavior? Well, if you don't change anything, nothing changes, right? Nothing's going to change if you don't make an effort to change something. And things will probably start to get worse because you're not making an effort to change the behavior you want to change. Because obviously, if you want to change it, there's a reason that you want to change it. And if you're not going to actually change it, it usually means things will get worse. Another thing that's going to happen more than likely if you don't learn to focus is that money becomes more scarce. And as money becomes more scarce, you get more and more afraid of what's going to happen in life. And that keeps shrinking your ability to make change. And I just call it lack of focus. That's what it is. Lack of focus causes these problems. So what should you do? Well, you should learn to focus better, right? People really should be more accountable for what they say they're going to do. And people really should master what it is they say they want to do. So what's the solution? Well, can I tell you what the solution is? It's one that I do myself. And it's called hiring a mentor. See, when you hire a mentor, you learn to focus because a mentor will require you to focus. A mentor is going to require you to be accountable. They're going to ask you, did you get things done? And they're also going to teach you techniques to help you do better at accomplishing those things that you're trying to do. So, who's a mentor for? Entrepreneurs? Dads? Moms? How about anybody who wants to do better in life? It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. Getting a mentor will move you forward. And having a mentor is a very mind-opening experience. And will open your heart as well. For myself, my mentors have done awesome things for me. They didn't make me do anything. They asked me to do things. But they didn't make me do anything. I chose to do what they asked of me. Or in some cases, I chose not to, and I missed out. But by having the mentor there, somebody that I was responsible for reporting to, I accomplished more than I would have otherwise. So, what are some of the things you'll learn? Well, you'll learn to empower yourself. And you're also going to learn methods to release negative emotions and thoughts. You're going to learn to hold yourself accountable because you know you're accountable to somebody else. It actually creates a pattern and a mindset of being accountable. And beyond that, some of the things that you'll learn is how to follow a routine, how to keep yourself on track, and if you get off track, to get back on track. And you're also going to learn through a mentor how to identify action steps that will move you forward. So how much is this going to cost? Well, many mentors that I know that offer packages similar to mine are charging $1,500. $1,500, $1,500. Now, it seems like a lot of money, but when you really want to move forward for yourself That's not much. What do I offer? Well, in my package, which I call Enhanced Mentoring with Mark, I offer five 1-hour meetings via online teleconferencing where I'm focused on you. And in doing that, you're going to get everything I have to offer. And you're going to have daily accountability. So you're going to focus, you're going to have accountability, and you're going to have a mentor who cares about you. That's me. And I do care about you because I want you to be the best you can be. So what do I normally charge for that? Well, regularly I charge $397. And let me tell you a few things that other people have said about the mentoring that they've had an opportunity to do with me. Daniel said, "The perspective that Mark offers has been golden. I know that my own view is limited and that I need other people who can hear and interpret what I'm saying, and then offer guidance and mentoring to help me see what's going on in my life and understand what I can do to improve. Mark cuts through the fog and confusion and always gets to the real point in a wonderful, soft, and loving way." Bethany said, "Mark Fincher is one of the smartest men I know. It is a privilege to get to work with him as a mentor. It seems every time I have the pleasure of being mentored by him, I am blown away, not only by the expanse of his knowledge, also by the depth of his insight." I'm appreciative of these people who have given me these testimonials. And I'd like to give you one last one here. Devola said, "I have developed a skill set for personal development by releasing fatigue techniques to power forward in completing the task at hand. This has been a huge asset to creating and fostering efficiency in my personal and professional life. I'm here to be your mentor, to be the best that I can be to help you, because I want to see you move ahead. So, because you've been attentive today, I'm going to offer you my package for $300. And if you decide by 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Wednesday, the 19th, if you contact me before 8 p.m., you can have this mentoring package for $300. And I hope that you take that opportunity. But even if you don't work with me, if you choose not to work with me, I hope that you find yourself a mentor, because it's that important to me that you move forward. You need to have the opportunity to find ways to expand yourself. I hope that you gain something from this, because I can see that if you use this focus, you can move forward. You can have better success, better results in your life. I've seen it for myself, and I want you to have that opportunity too. So thanks for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Again, I'm Mark Fincher. I'm the Chief Mentor at Living Tree Connections. You can find me at livingtreeconnections.com. And again, thank you for sharing your time with me. Have a great night.